Christmas is my favorite holiday. I look forward to it all fall. These decorations are so much fun to put them up, but it's not fun having to take them all back down. Now we're at the part of the season where it's not so fun. It's at the part of the season where if you're a teacher or a student, it's coming to an end, you have to go back to school, all that kind of stuff. But I've never heard anybody say their favorite holiday was New Year's, ever. And for me, I felt like New Year's was always that time of year where it's kind of sad. Even the song, they play at the end of the night, it's kind of sad because you're kind of saying goodbye. And on TV, if you're watching like things on TV, everybody who's died, all the tragedies that happened, it's just not a great night, So it kind of made me reflect about this year and next year, and it's kind of guided me as to what I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to get a little personal, so I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to be in Genesis chapter 25. I want to talk about a man named Jacob. I'm going to start at Genesis chapter 25, verse 24. I'm going to kind of be all over the place in Jacob's story, so it might be hard to follow. I encourage you to read it all for yourself when you get home, because I will have to jump around for the sake of time. I just kind of want to bring something out of this story to you today. Chapter 25, verse 24. It was when the time came for her birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment. So they named him Esau. After his brother came out with his hand grasping his heel, Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Verse 29. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from open country famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." So Jacob replied, "First, sell me your birthright." "Look, I'm about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore to him an oath, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate, drank, and got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. Now I can remember reading this story as a kid, and I thought it was the silliest story I've ever heard. Obviously in those times, if you were the eldest son, you got the birthright, which was a double portion of everything, the father's inheritance. It was something very, very valuable. And for Esau to just give it away to his brother for a bowl of beans, to me was kind of silly. I even had a hard time believing it sometimes. Like, why would he do something like that? But it was this last verse that got me. He says, so Esau despised his birthright. And that's where it hit me. It wasn't really about the stew or the bowl of beans. He really didn't appreciate what he had. Right? He took for granted what he had. And that made me look at the story in a whole different light. Because how can I look back through time at Esau and say, how could he do something so silly? Without looking at my own life, time and time again, doing the exact same thing. How many times have you given something away that you didn't appreciate? Maybe it's somebody or something, all because you took it for granted. Have you ever heard that term, you don't know what you got until it's gone? There's a reason why that was invented. Most people don't value or don't see the value in the things they really have. They don't until they don't have them anymore. So Esau didn't appreciate what he had. So it was nothing to him. And honestly, he didn't respect his little brother anyway. I think it would be difficult to be Jacob. It would be one thing if Esau had been a lot older and he had lots of years to look up to him and say, that's my older brother, he gets the birthright. But they were literally born at the same time. There were seconds. That's kind of hard to live with. Always knowing that your brother, whom you grew up with side by side, who you're basically the same age, will get a double portion. And will be Lord over you and your entire family, all because he came out a few seconds before you did. For me, I would think that would be pretty difficult. Now, in our culture today, I think the baby in the family gets the birthright. But if you have a younger sibling, you know what I mean. But when I was reading this, I thought, it's talking about two brothers. And I have a brother, and it made me think for a minute, because, for a while, I didn't have a great relationship with my brother, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But there was a large age gap between us. I'm 8 years older than he is. So when I was a teenager, he was very small, and he was kind of annoying, and I didn't have a great attitude. And I can remember one day, I came home from school, and I walked in the door, and he met me at the door, and he was just talking, and he was just saying all kinds of stuff. I said, oh, calm down. Just get out of my face. I just walked in the door. Can you give me 5 seconds? And I can remember his face changed. It went from, that's my big brother, to disappointment. And he walked away. And I didn't think much of it after that day. And then one day I came in the house, and it was quiet. Nobody here. So I walked down the hall, opened the door, looked at my brother's in his bed, playing video games. I said, "Hey, man, how you doing?" Hey. And that's when it hit me. You know, all he wanted to do was tell me about his day. He was excited to see me. But my reaction changed everything because I didn't value that relationship that I had. And I learned something very valuable. We always want to go back in time to change those big things that we think impact our lives because we think if that big thing hadn't happened, then things would be different. But really, it's those little things that we don't appreciate, those little moments that we take for granted that mean the most, and that change us drastically. And sometimes we don't see it until years later. And I saw that years later in my brother because I never appreciated him until I was older. And then by then, he didn't care anymore. So I see a lot of myself in this story. So I can't look back at Esau and Jacob like that without looking internally and seeing, what is God really trying to teach me off this page? Because it's more than just a bowl of beans. So Jacob, through his mother's deception, goes to Isaac, their father, and he pretends to be Esau. And he steals the birthright, right? Esau comes in, finds out the birthright's been stolen. He doesn't say, "Well, it wasn't mine anyway, I gave it away." Because he never intended to give it away. He thought it was his. He didn't think he could lose it. A lot of things you don't think you can lose, but you will if you don't appreciate them. He gets so angry that he wants to kill him. He says, "I will kill him. He will die." His mother's concerned for him. He tricks Isaac again and says, "There's no good women here. I think we need to send Jacob away so he can find a good wife." So he leaves and goes to Haran. He leaves Beersheba and he sets out to Haran. And the reason why he does it is to escape death from his own brother. So he got what he wanted. Sometimes you can get what you want through deception. But it'll take him 20 years for him to ever see it because he'll be on the run for the next 20 years of his life. All because of what he had done to get what he thought he had to have. Sometimes what you think you really want doesn't feel so good when you finally get it. Sometimes things are just empty. They're just things. I'm going to pick up in Genesis 28, verse 10. It says, Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and he lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting from the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All the people on the earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you, and I will watch over you. Wherever you go, I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I've done what I have promised you." So Jacob's left what's comfortable. He left home. The one thing he wanted more than anything, he spent all his life trying to get, to set out somewhere he doesn't know where he's going. And it says, the Bible says he's at a certain place. And I'm sure he's at a moment of fear, right? He has no idea what the future holds. He got what he wanted, but it wasn't all he thought it was going to be. He doesn't know what his future holds. He's left what's comfortable. Now what, right? So we're getting ready to leave 2018, go into 2019. Now what, right? What's the next chapter? And what I love about this story is God shows up in this certain place. At this crossroads of his life, he showed, "I am here." And he says it, "I am with you. I will watch over you." He's basically saying, calm down. I've already set it all in motion. I'm already working it all out for your good. Why are you worried? He gives him peace in the moment he needs it the most. Today, if you're suffering you need a job and you're at a moment of indecision, or in your relationship, or in your health, God is saying, "I am with you. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I have got your back." I find encouragement in that. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head, and he set it up as a pillar, and he poured oil on it. He called the place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. So he wakes up, he's had this incredible moment, right? He said, it's amazing, right? This is how awesome is this place. Just like that, his whole perspective changed. It was so much changed that he changed the name of the place where it was. From now on in the Bible, it is no longer referred to as Luz, it's referred to as Bethel. Bethel means house of God. So he completely changed his circumstances. Maybe sometimes we need to just change the name of your circumstances. By that I mean maybe you need to look at things a little differently. Maybe you need to look around and say, maybe I am blessed. Right? Sometimes we need to take an inventory and say, you know what? I think maybe God is here. Right? Things aren't what I thought they were. So just by changing the name of your situation changes your perspective on how you see where you are. Then Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey, if God will be with me, I'm taking and will feed me, clothe me, I'll return safely to my father's house. Then the Lord God set this stone here, I have set a pillar, and it will be the house of God, and all the people, and give you a tenth. I want you to notice what he says. He says, if God will be with me. If, right? We always play this game, right? Even if God shows up in miraculous ways, we're so blessed. When we've opened all the presents, we have so much. We look around, we have a beautiful home, a beautiful spouse, all these kids, we have everything. We're so blessed. And we still look around, we still negotiate with God, and we still say, I know I'm blessed, but if you will, then I. If you do, then I. He's already showed up in the midst of his sorrow. He's already showed up in the midst of all of it. He says, I've already done it. I've already gone before you. I've already set your steps. I've already blessed you. Right? But we, in our immaturity, can't see it for what it really is. And he can't see it either yet. He's still negotiating with God. In Genesis 29, when he gets there and he says, he sees his uncle Laban. He says, Laban has 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. He says, Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, I'll work for you for 7 years in return for your younger daughter Rachel. Laban said, it is better that I give her to you than another man. Stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but it seemed only like a few days for him because of his love for her. Now this is pretty crazy. So he has 2 daughters. I was reading a lot of commentary because I didn't understand what he meant by weak eyes. And some commentaries said she might have been cross-eyed. I think it meant to imply that she wasn't attractive. And it goes, specifically says Rachel has a lovely figure and is very beautiful. So which one does he choose? It's love at first sight. So much so that he is willing to work 7 years to be with Rachel. 7 years. And not only that, he says, it only seemed like a few days. Then Jacob said to Laban, give me my wife, the time is completed, and I want to make love to her. So Laban brought her all the people in the place, and they gave a feast. But when evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob made love to her. And Laban gave him his servant Zilpah to his daughter as an attendant. When morning came, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, what is this you have done to me? I served you for Rachel, didn't I? Why have you deceived me? Laban replied, it is not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older. Finish this daughter's bridal week. Then we'll give you the younger also in return for another 7 years of work. And Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. And also, she got a servant named Bilhah. So the deceiver got deceived, right? So he basically wakes up, realizes he slept with the wrong woman. Now he's married to Leah as well. And he says, hey, that's our custom here, right? He says, well, I wanted Rachel. He says, look, I'll give you Rachel now. You work another 7 years. At least he had enough common sense not to work 7 years and wait. So he got both women, worked another 7 years. But at the end of the day, we're 14 years for Rachel, 14 years for this woman. So it had to have been true love. And this is where it gets really crazy. It says Jacob's children. It says when the Lord saw Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. When I read this, I couldn't help but think, God sees me in every circumstance. Even the ones I didn't pray for, right? Even the ones I didn't see were important. He sees me in every waking moment of my life. And he's already helping me through all of it, right? He says the Lord saw that she was not loved. He enabled her to conceive, and Rachel remained childless because he knew Rachel already had his love and attention. She didn't need it. But Leah had no attention because he didn't love her in the first place. So he gave her the one thing that Rachel couldn't, so that he would have to spend time with his new wife, right? God works everything out for our good, even the things we don't understand, even the things that we don't even get. But it says, Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and she named him Reuben. For she said, it's because the Lord has seen my misery. So obviously she's not happy. Surely my husband will love me now. She conceived again, and she gave birth to a son, and she said, because the Lord heard I am not loved, he gave me this one too, so she named him Simeon. Again she conceived, and when the birth of the son, she said, now at last my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. So he named him Levi. She conceived again, and then gave birth to her son, and she said, this time, I will praise the Lord. So she named him Judah, and she stopped having children. You know, what does she want? Jacob. What does she want? Really? Love. You know, I've worked in ministry long enough to see so many young girls give so much of themselves away, thinking that if I just do this one more thing, then they'll love me. Just one more thing. One more time. Maybe this person. All giving away parts of themselves they'll never get back to people who didn't deserve it in the first place. And then when they get older and they don't have the marriage they thought they would have because they've given so much of themselves away that they don't even understand why it's dysfunctional. They don't understand why they have problems with intimacy. They don't understand why they have problems with communication. And they don't realize that they gave so much of themselves away to people that didn't deserve it. See, we think that God gave us rules and said, hey, don't do this. Oh, you're so mean. No, he's trying to protect you from a life you're going to have if you don't make the right choices. And over again, she just wants to be loved. And maybe in this circumstance, it's her husband. But she still wanted love either way. Nothing can find contentment but God. And she finally learned that in her last child, and that's when she stopped having children. She says, this time I will praise the Lord. And she named him Judah. And then she found contentment, right? If you want peace, it's going to come from God. It's not going to come from anybody or anything. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing children, she became jealous of her sister. So she said to Jacob, give me children or I will die. Jacob became angry with her and said, am I in the place of God who has kept you from having children? You hear what he said? It ain't my fault. I've got kids. Right? That's what he said. Am I in the place of God? Then she said, well, here, take my servant Bilhah. Sleep with her so that she can bear children for me. I too can build a family through her. How many times can we just not wait? The Bible says there's a season for everything, a time and a place for everything under the sun. But we can't wait. We cannot wait. Even the rich, popular people are jealous too. We always look over there and say, well, they got it all. And they look back at you and see what you have and wish they had that. She couldn't find happiness. It says she became jealous of her sister, even though her sister was not even loved. She was miserable. She literally said she was miserable. And she still wanted the one thing that Leah could give you that she couldn't. Even though she had everything else, she still wanted that too. So much so that she couldn't wait on God's timing because she will have children. She gives the servant to Jacob. And he has children with her. So Leah, in return, says, I'll do the same thing. I'll sleep with my servant. All 4 of these women are giving him children. And it's like the Real Housewives of Jacob. It's the craziest story. And you can read through the rest of it. But what I love about this story is if you read the rest of the Bible, who came from the tribe of Judah? Jesus. All 12 of these sons that they will have will all be the 12 tribes of Judah, or the 12 tribes of Israel. And when you read back in all the lineages throughout the Bible, and you see what tribes they came from, they all came from this crazy mess. And if you read it, you'll see back and forth, back and forth. Please love me, please love me. Here's my servant, now take her servant. All of them wanting one thing, love. Right? And even through our messes, God cleans it up and makes something special. Right? Even the things we don't think are important, God is still working it out for our good. And out of all these kids are the 12 tribes of Israel, that you'll read the lineage of Jesus himself from the child of Leah. That's crazy. But the story takes a turn. In Genesis 35, verse 17, it says, and she was having great difficulty in childbirth. The midwife said to her, don't despair, for you have another son. As she breathed her last before she was dying, she named her son Ben-Anoi. But his father named him Benjamin. So this is Rachel. This is love of his life now. This is the woman he married after 14 years of work, right? 14 years he labored for this woman. Love at first sight. She has her last child. She has prayed for this child. She wanted this child. She got what she wanted. And the Bible says, as she breathed her last, he breathed his first. She died of childbirth. And out of her sorrow, she names him Ben-Anoi. And I looked it up and it says, Ben means son, Anoi means sorrow. Sorrow. So she named the child out of her circumstance, right? She's dying. I mean, how would you feel? You'll never see the child grow up. Never see any of its life. I mean, can you process that for a second? I'm quite sure. Not only the fact she's dying, but there's a lot of sorrow in this moment. So she goes to Jacob. And it's interesting, the word Ben-Anoi also is interchangeable. The same word can also mean strength, which I thought was very interesting. How can the same word mean sorrow and strength? Sorrow and strength. Which one was she really looking for? But then I realized, typically when you meet strong people, they're strong because they went through a lot of stuff. Because usually out of great sorrow comes great strength. But that's not what Jacob had in mind. I'm sure Jacob could not have imagined every day looking at this child thinking, man, that's the name my dying wife gave my son out of sorrow. And I know how important names are, right? So he changed it. He said, he will be called Benjamin. So I looked up Benjamin. Ben means son, and then Jamin means son of my right hand. Son of my right hand. So if you've read the Bible, you'll realize what he just did was he gave him a blessing, right? Son of my right hand, that meant son of my blessing. He just named him son of my... I want you to remember the 60 years before this, right? Where he went through all that with his brother, all that with his deception with his father, on the run for 20 years, all for one thing, the birthright from his father. And his dying wife has his last son, and she named him son of my birthright. He'd come full circle. He had named him something that meant the most to him, not sorrow. I won't look at this child every day and think of my dead wife. No, I'm going to look at it as my blessing. He changed his perspective one more time. He changed it. If I'm being honest, the one thing I hate about myself more than anything is my name. I was named after my dad, and unfortunately, I never met him. So it's kind of hard for me to be named after somebody who doesn't care if I exist. So I never liked it growing up, and I got in a lot of fights because of it, because it's a silly name. Luckily, this generation hasn't seen some of the movies that used to be out when I was a kid, so I at least don't have to hear that. When I go to Chick-fil-A, they say, what's the name for your order? And I tell them, they always say, what? And the reaction itself just gets on my nerves. I know you heard me, but I have to say it twice. I know it's silly. I didn't give it to myself. I don't like it either. And it's always drove me crazy. So when I graduated high school, those people knew me by that name. So when I graduated high school, I said, I'm not going to be called that anymore. I'm done with it. So I went by my middle name. So every previous job I had after that, they called me David. Madison had a wreck a few weeks ago. We were cleaning out her car, and I pulled an old ID badge out of the glove box and it said David on it. And it just reminded me, of those times in my life. And I just hated it so much. So if you ever met anybody from my past that worked with me in any secular jobs, they wouldn't know who you were talking about unless you called me David. But it's interesting, if you read in Exodus, Moses refers to somebody. He says, I serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. A few chapters earlier, I didn't mention this, but Jacob wrestles with God. And out of that experience, he changes his name. He says, I'll bless you today, and you'll no longer be called Jacob, or no longer be called Jacob, but you'll be called Israel. So he changes his name from Jacob to Israel. I always loved that part. Like, let's wrestle. Change my name, please. But why in the Bible do they continue to refer to him as Jacob? This is in Exodus many years later. Moses is referring back to God. He doesn't say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. He says Jacob. Why? And it bothered me. And then I realized something. You see, God is not the God of who I want to be. God is the God of who I am. It doesn't matter what other people say. What it matters what God says. I'm not a label. I am who I am. And I have to be happy with who I am. It's not about being perfect. God is not expecting you to be perfect. He just wants to love you. He loves you. He loves Jacob and Israel. He loves who you are today, and he's already seen you tomorrow. He loves you when you don't love yourself. He's already called you blessed. In Genesis 35, I'm going to close with this. In Genesis 35, it says Jacob returns to Bethel. Verse 35, then God said to Jacob, go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. So he goes back to Bethel. Now you remember Bethel was that place where it was a crossroads in his life, where he was very afraid and had no idea what the future held. And he couldn't even leave that experience without negotiating with God. But this time, there is no negotiation. He just says, I'm going to build an altar. That's it. Wow. What does an altar mean? Sacrifice. It's no longer about him. He understands. He's been through enough now to know that God's already got it all worked out. There's no need for me to worry about it. Just sacrifice. No more me, just him. Because he's already going to work it out better than I could have worked it out anyway. No more me, just sacrifice. So he builds an altar. And I thought, this is the part where I needed to learn something. See, I always looked at New Year's as a loss. As a year I lost. Experiences I don't get anymore. Or maybe goals I didn't achieve. But he told Jacob to go back to the beginning and reflect. So maybe what I need to do today is look back. Not as something I lost, but as something I gained. I need to change my perspective. Right? Because if you don't feel blessed today, you need to change yours. Because you are blessed. Because God has called you blessed. We serve a mighty God. He loves you despite of everything. No matter where you are and who you are. No matter yesterday or tomorrow. You don't go to heaven when you die. You go to heaven because he died. It's all about him. And he has called you blessed today. Somebody come play something. I want to have a time of decision. I'm not going to talk to you. I just want to leave you with this. The altar is here. Take it for what it's worth. If you feel like you need peace with God today, now is your opportunity to come and get that. It's just your time between you and him. Don't let pride hold you back. Don't let these people hold you back. You do what God tells you to do. Because we all need a little peace, and we all need a little reflection, and we all need a little perspective. So I hope I was able to give you that today. Maybe you can see the scripture in the life of Jacob. Maybe some of the other Bible stories. It's a little different today. Maybe you see your own life and a little grace to somebody else tomorrow.